urgent action. Ciaran is a keen diver, having learnt here on the Gold Coast and now having dived across Australia, South Pacific and Europe. We're really honoured to have her. Welcome. Give her a warm welcome.
All right, thank you, George. I move around a lot when I talk, so I apologise in advance for moving. But yes, thank you very much for letting me come and talk today. I obviously like to talk about sharks and rays a lot, so this is why George has asked me to come down. This is going to be very, very informal, very open discussion. Like, you guys all dive, you've been in the water. I know you guys are going to have questions as well, so just to give a bit more of an expansion on what I have been doing here is that I focus on marine protected areas. So if you don't already know, the Gold Coast Seaway is actually linked to Moreton Bay Marine Park. So it's the most southern part of the marine park down here. And in the marine park, we have a huge diversity of sharks and rays. So we have over 30% of the diversity of all Australian sharks and rays are found in the Seaway and all up to Moreton Bay. So it's a really unique spot, considering that it's so heavily used with traffic and boats and everything. Like, we've all been under the water, we see what's under there. Like, it's a really amazing space. So I haven't really prepared too much to say, because I just wanted to really get a feel from you guys what you want to know about the sharks in the Seaway. George has obviously got a question. So
how many species of sharks we are likely to run into in the Seaway?
It can change seasonally. So on average, there's about 20 different species that you could see come through. Most of them you're probably never going to encounter because they'll go straight past you. We obviously get the bull sharks in here. Everyone, well, I was speaking to a few people that dive with the bull sharks. You get them up off the end of the Seaway. After periods of heavy rain, when it's all flushing through the system, bringing a lot of nutrients, you're going to get whalers, bronze whalers, you'll get big mackerel sharks off there. Some of the other ones I've seen were obviously the bull sharks. In the winter, you can get white sharks up this way as well. They don't usually come in the Seaway, but definitely off towards the end. Then you get in the Seaway, you get the little sharks, the wobbegongs. We saw bamboo sharks. You can get scalloped hammerheads as well. Like, a lot of them will come in and use all of the broadwater for breeding, so they can go somewhere nice and calm and then come back out. So yeah, you'll get lots of different sharks in there. So yeah, if anyone has other questions you want me to answer, I'm happy to do that. George is just going to take over.
So I'm asking for a friend.
Yes.
And is there anything that we might do unknowingly in the Seaway that might put us at risk to sharks, from sharks, yeah?
Yes and no. As divers, I think a lot of us already know that we are in a lot safer position being down under the water with the sharks if we're down there. So most sharks are ambush predators, which means that they need to be underneath you if they're going to come up to try and have a bite. So if you're down on their level or you see the shark, you're going to be pretty safe, but obviously there's always something, precautionary there for them. But to keep yourself safe or to not attract them really, sharks, I have always said this, are really, really lazy. They are probably one of the laziest creatures in the ocean. They do not want to use a lot of energy. They just want to get what they can as easy as possible, which is why they go for injured animals, animals that are dying, or animals that are, making a lot of fuss in the water, and they want to go and see it because they know, well, if this is injured, I'm going to have an easy go of getting it. So if you're splashing around, making a lot of noise, you're going to attract sharks. If you're nice and calm down there, just taking your time, being nice and chilled, like, they're really not going to be that interested in you. So stay calm with them and give them, a fair level of respect. You're not really going to have a bad interaction with them. I think divers are probably the lowest risk that you can be to be in water with sharks. Like, as I said, they're down on the bottom, they're in their habitat, you see them, they see you, they don't want anything to do with you generally, so you're pretty safe as a diver.
Does this apply to snorkelers as well?
Snorkelers. Snorkelers forget everything I just said. No. Snorkelers, you're still fine. As I said, if you see the shark, you're generally in a good position. They don't want, they want to ambush if they're going to attack anything. So if you've seen them, they can know that you've seen them and they won't come near you. But same again, lots of splashing is going to bring a shark over if there's one there. So staying calm or less splashing is definitely a bonus.
Thank you.
Anyone?
I saw on Facebook, so it must be true. Is that you can push the shark away with your hand on its nose.
Yeah, and I think they actually did a Mythbusters episode about it as well.
And is it true?
Yeah, it is, because sharks have a different sense to us. So we've obviously got sight, smell, hearing, everything, and sharks have got that electromagnetic sense. So in their nose, they have these little, it's a horrible word, but little pustules, which are filled with a gel, and they're called the ampullae of Lorenzini. So basically they give the sharks that ability to pick up on electromagnetic currents in the water. So if you smack a shark really hard right under the nose, it's going to put a big electromagnetic shock through their body, which will stun them, which if you happen to be close enough and can do that, it's definitely going to deter it from coming closer to you. Yeah, another really unique thing with the sharks is they do this thing called tonic immobility. So if you're ever in a situation where there is a shark coming near you and it's a small, relatively small shark, if you actually held it by the nose, flipped it upside down, it goes to sleep. So yeah, pretty much like cow tipping. So the shark. Yeah, I'm not recommending this. I'm definitely not recommending it, but they do. That's how we, in research, when we're trying to tag them and stuff like that, we'll flip them upside down because they go to sleep and make it a lot easy for you. But yeah, it's an interesting thing with them. That nose is a very sensitive organ for sharks, so you interrupt it and they're not very fond of it. Yeah.
Still the question of offshore attractive orientation, whether it be snorkeling, surfing, or diving. What about colour of wetsuit? Most wetsuits are black. Occasionally you see a diver colour. Does colour make a difference?
That's a good question, and I mean, I'm sure there's so many studies that have been done on how we look like seals when we're on surfboards and stuff like that. I think the main thing is just not to sort of be in the water in the dark where it's harder to differentiate between the surface of the water and a black wetsuit. There has been studies that have looked at people who dress up like pilot fish, so wetsuits that are black and white striped, and that's actually seen to have a bit of a deterrent for them. But I don't think, most sharks are colorblind, so they're not really going to differentiate between colors. It's more the counter shading and the shapes or the contrast that might make a difference. But yeah, wetsuit thing I wouldn't really think makes too much of a difference. Yeah.
What about those electronic shark deterrent devices you see advertised?
Yeah, I was having a conversation about that before, and for those to work, I think, I'm not saying they don't work, because people obviously, there's a big market for them. Yeah. Well, yeah, the placebo effect.
Can we just repeat the question?
Oh yeah, the question was about the shark bands, people who buy the shark bands and if they actually work. So those have the same sort of thing. They're based on magnets. So if a shark comes here, they don't really like magnets. They've done a lot of studies using walls of magnets instead of shark nets, which seems to deter them. So I guess if the shark is right near you and you're wearing several of them, it might make a big difference. But I don't want to ruin their patent or their copyright or anything and say they probably aren't too effective. But I guess I don't know. I haven't worn them and been in the water with a shark, so I couldn't really tell you firsthand. Yeah.
Oh, how do you do your research? Is it in water yourself, or leaving cameras behind,
So there's a few. So the question was, how do I do my research? It also depends on what type of research you're doing. So in my PhD, I did a lot of shark or a lot of stingray tagging. For that, you actually have to catch them, pull them alongside the boat, and then you're manually inserting a tag. So it's just putting it inside their body, stitching them back up and letting them go. Then we have acoustic receivers set out. So every time the shark or the ray would go past the receiver, it sets off a series of clicks. So you know which shark or ray that is, and then you can go, okay, it's in this location at this time, or it's moving over here, and you can see what it's actually doing. A lot of the stuff that I do now, unfortunately, is behind a desk. So I do a lot of development of criteria for how to assess areas of importance to sharks and rays. So based on a lot of what all the scientists and everybody has been looking at with observations, where the sharks and rays are, what they're doing, that's the information that I then take and say, well, by looking at this and then developing a set of steps that you have to go through to say, yes, it ticks off all these boxes, this is an important area for a shark or ray, and here is all the scientific data to back it up. So yeah, a lot of desk work now, but we still need data for that. And that actually leads me to a question that George had asked me the other day, is how people who dive can get involved in shark research.
Oh, took my next question.
Sorry. So obviously a lot of you probably got certified through PADI, and PADI has an organisation called PADI Aware, and they actually are coming up to introduce a new global census for sharks and rays. And that's in collaboration with the project I've been working on with the important shark and ray areas, which means that anyone who dives, sees a shark, can go online to the PADI Aware page to the global shark census, put that information in, so what species you saw, where you saw it, if you know if it was male or female, what time of day, what time of year, all that type of information comes back to me in a roundabout way, so I can go, okay, well, there's a lot of this number of species in this location because of all the data coming in, and that's how we know, well, this is going to be an important area, we can investigate it more, and all of that data gets used. So if you do want to help with the conservation side of it, yeah, definitely keep an eye out when that comes up with the PADI Aware. There's also another organisation called Ecologists, and they do a global shark census every year as well, and they're the same. Just jump online, put any information that you have on where you've seen sharks or rays, and then yeah, filters through, comes to the right channels and gets used for protection and conservation. Yep.
With regards to most species we encounter as divers, how aggressively do they really react when they're antagonised?
Most of them, well, sorry, if everyone heard the question was how do they react if they are antagonised, which is, yeah, you don't want to be doing that. It depends on the size and how badly you're antagonising them. So obviously if it's a bull shark or something like that, their first instinct is going to be to swim away. If you can swim after it and keep harassing it, it's going to come back and it's going to have a go at you. Wobbegongs, do not recommend touching them at all. So wobbegongs are the only species of sharks that can actually turn around and bite their own tail. So they have a really big arc that they can get you in. I know of divers that have gone under and seen them and grabbed the tail to pull them out and have a look, and then ended up getting bitten. So yeah, just depends on how you're antagonizing it, but the general rule with anything in diving as well is just don't touch it. So if you're not touching it, I think you're going to be okay.